The research outpost on Kepler 442b had been Dr. Sarah Chen's home for 3 months now, and she had grown accustomed to the planet's peculiarities. The bioluminescent forests, the twin moons that cast purple shadows across the landscape, and the strange calls of native fauna that echoed through the night. All of it had become routine. What she hadn't anticipated was waking up to find herself pinned beneath a pile of what could only be described as living weapons. Sarah's eyes snapped open at dawn, her body immediately registering the weight pressing down on her chest, legs, and arms. Her breath caught in her throat as her vision focused on the creatures surrounding her. 7 juvenile predators, each roughly the size of a large dog, had arranged themselves across and around her sleeping form. Their scales shimmered with an iridescent quality, ranging from deep crimson to burnt orange, and their mouths were filled with rows of needle-sharp teeth that would make a shark envious. Retractable claws currently extended, dug lightly into her clothing and the thin sleeping mat beneath her. The largest of the group, positioned directly on her chest, opened one vertical slit eye and regarded her with what Sarah could only interpret as satisfaction. A low, rumbling purr emanated from its throat, vibrating through her ribcage. "Okay," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible. "This is fine. This is completely fine. It wasn't fine." These were Kepler raptors, or at least that's what the xenobiology team had nicknamed them. The adults stood nearly 8 feet tall and were apex predators capable of taking down prey 3 times their size. The juveniles, while smaller, were still incredibly dangerous. Their venom sacs wouldn't fully develop until maturity, but those claws and teeth were very much functional. Sarah's mind raced through her training. Don't make sudden movements. Don't show fear. Predators can sense fear. But how exactly did one not show fear when buried under 200 pounds of scaled death? The creature on her chest shifted, its weight pressing harder against her sternum. Another one curled near her feet yawned, displaying a horrifying array of dental weaponry. Sarah forced herself to breathe slowly, evenly. Her emergency beacon was clipped to her belt, just inches from her right hand. But reaching for it would require movement these creatures might interpret as aggression, or worse, as prey trying to escape. Good. "Babies?" Sarah tried, her voice cracking slightly. "Nice murder lizards?" The largest juvenile's eyes fully opened, both of them now fixed on her face. Its head tilted in a gesture that was almost bird-like curious. Then, to Sarah's absolute bewilderment, it began to knead her chest with its front claws, the way a cat might knead a comfortable blanket. The gesture would have been adorable if not for the fact that each claw was roughly 3 inches long and razor-sharp. "Oh God, you think I'm your mother," Sarah realized aloud. The pieces fell into place. She had been studying Kepler raptor nesting sites for weeks, carefully observing from a distance. Yesterday she had tracked what she thought was an abandoned nest near her camp. The adult had probably been killed or driven off, leaving these juveniles orphaned. And somehow in the night, they had found her sleeping form, detected her warmth, and decided she was an acceptable substitute parent. One of the smaller juveniles crawled up toward her face, its movement surprisingly graceful despite its bulk. It pressed its snout against her cheek and Sarah felt a forked tongue flick out, tasting her skin. The creature made a high-pitched chirping sound, almost plaintive. "You're hungry," Sarah said, the realization bringing a new wave of concern. "Of course you're hungry. And I have no idea what to feed baby apex predators." As if in response, several of the juveniles began to stir, their chirping growing more insistent. The one on her chest stood up, its full weight momentarily concentrated on her ribcage before it stepped off. Sarah gasped as pressure released, but before she could move, 3 more had repositioned themselves across her body. This was going to be a problem. Sarah knew that rescue was at least 12 hours away. Her weekly check-in wasn't scheduled until evening, and the main research facility was on the other side of the continent. She was alone with 7 hungry predator babies who had imprinted on her as their caretaker. "All right," she said, her scientific mind overriding her fear. "Let's think about this logically." Slowly, carefully, she began to move her right arm. The juveniles watched with interest but didn't react aggressively. Encouraged, Sarah continued the movement until her fingers brushed against her supply pack. Inside were ration bars, water purification tablets, and thankfully several packages of protein concentrate meant for her own consumption. It wasn't ideal, but it might work. She managed to extract a protein bar and tear open the package with her teeth. Immediately, 7 pairs of eyes locked onto the movement. The chirping intensified, becoming almost deafening. Sarah broke off a piece and held it up. The largest juvenile lunged forward, snatching it from her fingers with surprising gentleness. Careful not to bite her hand. The others surged forward, and for a terrifying moment Sarah thought she would be trampled. But the juveniles maintained a remarkable level of control, each waiting their turn as she distributed pieces of the protein bar. When it was gone, they settled back down, their purring resuming. "Well," Sarah said, a slightly hysterical laugh escaping her lips, "I guess I'm a mom now." The largest juvenile crawled back onto her chest, its weight somehow less oppressive than before. It closed its eyes, content, and within moments the others had arranged themselves in a protective circle around her. Sarah lay there, pinned but no longer panicked, and stared up at the purple sky of Kepler 442b. She had come to this planet to study alien life. She hadn't expected to become part of their family structure. But as the sun rose higher and the juvenile's breathing synchronized into peaceful sleep, Sarah felt something unexpected, a fierce protectiveness for these dangerous, deadly, absolutely beautiful creatures. Her colleagues would never believe this. Hell, she barely believed it herself. But humanity had always had a strange relationship with predators. From wolves to wildcats, humans had looked at nature's most efficient killers and thought, I could be friends with that. Apparently, that instinct transcended planets. Sarah closed her eyes and allowed herself to rest, surrounded by her new terrifying scaly children. When rescue arrived, she would have quite the story to tell, and possibly 7 new research subjects who refused to let her go.